If there were chariots found in the Red Sea, it would probably have something to do with
Something unbelievable has surfaced beneath the waters of the Red Sea, something powerful enough to shake history, faith, and the modern world all at once. What began as a routine deep-sea survey quickly turned into a discovery no one was prepared for. Coral fossilized wheels, scattered bones, and an underwater trail that looks exactly like a destroyed army, frozen in time. As sonar maps reveal a hidden bridge stretching across the Gulf, ancient words recorded thousands of years ago suddenly feel disturbingly real. And many are asking the same question: if this event truly happened, what does it mean for our future? Before we continue, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. The sonar technician stared at the monitor, blinking as symmetrical shapes pulsed back from the seabed of the Gulf of Aqaba. Perfect circles, repeating patterns, and a long, almost deliberate line stretching deep into the dark. These weren't rocks. They weren't coral. They were too precise, too organized, too unnatural, and that was only the beginning. The 2024 expedition was unlike anything the public had seen. Funded quietly by private backers, the team arrived with equipment normally reserved for classified military operations. High-frequency side-scan sonar, hypersensitive magnetometers, and remotely operated vehicles equipped with robotic arms and 4K low-light cameras. They didn't come looking for legends, they were pursuing a rumor that had been dismissed for decades. But the ocean was about to force them to confront something far older, far heavier, and far more disturbing than anyone expected. When the ROV slipped beneath the waves, the sea swallowed it immediately. Its lights cut through the blue and descended into blackness, revealing nothing but drifting sediment until a shape materialized out of the gloom. A round object, perfectly proportioned, coated in thick coral. The robotic arm brushed away the silt. Lines appeared, straight edges, a rim, a spoke. It was a wheel. Not a modern wheel, not a piece of industrial debris. A wheel fused into stone by thousands of years of coral growth, yet unmistakably crafted by human hands. And as the ROV drifted forward, another appeared, and another, and another. The divers prepared to go down themselves. Veterans of deep-sea salvage and military wreck recovery, they expected wreckage. They did not expect this. The moment their lights swept across the seabed, the mood shifted. The jokes stopped, the breathing slowed. A silent weight settled on all of them. The ocean floor looked like a battlefield frozen mid-collapse. Chariot frames broken and twisted, axles snapped in half, wheels scattered like abandoned shields. Coral had swallowed every trace of wood and leather, leaving ghostly outlines of ancient machines. Human bones tangled with horse skeletons, rib cages fused into the wreckage, skulls half buried in sediment, spines curving in directions no living body could survive. The scale was overwhelming. This wasn't a shipwreck, this was a catastrophe. The trail stretched for almost 1.5 miles, following the exact shape of the underwater land bridge the team had mapped earlier. It was as if an entire army had been trapped, crushed, and sealed beneath the sea in a single violent instant. Then came the moment that none of them could explain. A diver's beam passed over a mound of coral and struck something that flickered faintly, a muted gold shimmer buried under centuries of growth. The diver stopped. He steadied his light. The shape beneath the coral looked impossibly smooth, unnervingly symmetrical. A circle, a rim, a wheel, but not like the others. This one glowed. Some whispered it could belong to a high-ranking officer, maybe even to the Pharaoh himself. Don't miss what happens next. The deeper we go, the stranger the evidence becomes. Before the divers found the first wheel, before the cameras captured the first coral fossilized axle, the team had already stumbled onto something even more impossible. An underwater structure so vast, so precisely positioned, that its very existence challenged everything historians thought they knew about the ancient world. It began with the topographic scans. When the expedition deployed its side-scan sonar across the Gulf of Aqaba, the expectation was simple: a deep trench, a steep drop-off, and nothing but sediment. That is what textbooks had taught for generations. But the seabed did not behave the way the maps predicted. Instead of a uniform abyss, the sonar revealed a massive elevated structure, a natural causeway stretching nearly 10 miles from Egypt toward the coast of modern-day Saudi Arabia. This feature did not belong in a sea known for plunging depths exceeding 5,000 feet. Yet there it was, a long, shallow plateau with an average depth of roughly 900 feet. Still deep, but astonishingly walkable compared to the cliffs around it. It rose like the backbone of some ancient creature, surrounded by voids on both sides. The divers called it the bridge. At first, no one thought much of it. Underwater ridges exist in oceans worldwide. But this one lined up with too many anomalies. The team examined geological charts and satellite data. The pattern was the same, two coastlines shaped like a funnel, narrowing toward this one submerged path. To the west lay Nuweiba Beach, a vast, wide plain where thousands, maybe tens of thousands, could gather. To the east, steep mountains formed a natural barrier. There was no other route out, no other place to escape. This geography mirrored, point for point, the ancient narrative describing a fleeing population boxed in by sea and mountains. But the most important detail came next. The debris discovered by the divers followed the ridge exactly. The wheels, the bones, the broken chariot frames, they didn't appear at random. They formed a linear trail that matched the contours of the bridge. It was as if an entire force had attempted to cross the elevated plateau and had been overtaken precisely at its midpoint. Marine biologists on the team offered an explanation for why so much remained intact. Coral in this region grows aggressively, but only on hard surfaces. The wood rotted, the leather decayed, the metal corroded. But the coral grew over the original shapes, locking everything in place. Over centuries, the coral preserved the outlines of everything it touched, turning fragile chariots into ghostly coral sculptures. Currents in the Gulf of Aqaba also contributed. On both sides of the bridge, the deep trenches created swirling water movements that deposited silt onto the ridge. Over thousands of years, those layers of silt covered and protected the debris. Without this precise combination of depth, currents, and coral, the ancient remnants would have vanished long ago. This was not a random underwater formation. This was a natural corridor, one that aligned perfectly with the story of a mass crossing, a sudden catastrophe, and a vanished army. No ancient author could have known such a structure existed beneath the waves. No eyewitness living thousands of years ago could describe the exact shape of a seabed only modern sonar could reveal. And yet the ancient account pointed directly to this spot, a hidden bridge beneath a deep sea, a bridge no one could have known about, except those who once walked across it. Long before high-tech robots and million-dollar sonar swept across the Gulf of Aqaba, a lone explorer had already walked this path. He was not a university scholar, not a trained archaeologist, and not someone the academic world ever took seriously. His name was Ron Wyatt, a nurse anesthetist from Tennessee, whose curiosity and determination outweighed every credential he lacked. In the late 1970 seconds, while experts dismissed the Exodus as little more than legend, Wyatt was convinced that ancient events described in Scripture had a physical footprint somewhere on Earth. If an army perished in the sea, he reasoned, then somewhere beneath the waves the evidence must still remain. With nothing more than basic scuba gear, a small boat, and a sense of purpose, he began searching the very coastline that modern expeditions now consider the key crossing point. During one of his early dives, he reached the submerged ridge that the 2024 team would later identify as the underwater land bridge. There, he saw shapes that startled him. Circular forms coated in coral, outlines of wheels with visible spokes, and twisted objects that looked like axles. His equipment was primitive, and his photos were blurry, but they captured something unmistakably crafted, something that seemed far too organized to be natural. He claimed to have found clusters of human and horse bones fused into the coral, remnants locked in time, as if frozen in the moment of a sudden catastrophe. And he spoke often of one object, in particular a wheel with a soft golden shimmer buried beneath a hard crust of coral, a wheel he believed belonged to someone of high rank, perhaps even a royal figure. When Wyatt presented his findings, the reaction was immediate and merciless. Academics dismissed him as a fantasist, insisting that he was seeing patterns where none existed. Without clear photographs and without institutional backing, his voice was drowned out, but he continued documenting everything he found. He drew maps, he recorded depths, he marked precise coordinates. And those coordinates, ignored for nearly half a century, became the foundation of the 2024 expedition's search grid. When the modern team arrived with advanced technology, the results mirrored Wyatt's notes with eerie accuracy. The wheels, the skeletal remains, the linear trail across the seabed, everything appeared exactly where he had indicated. Even more unsettling, some zones he described as densely packed with artifacts now show signs of disturbance, as if something massive had been dragged away from the seabed sometime after his original dives. For decades, Ron Wyatt was treated as a fringe figure, but the discoveries emerging from the depths now suggest that he was far closer to the truth than anyone wanted to believe. If you want this investigation to continue unfolding, remember to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. The deeper the expedition pushed into the seabed, the clearer a pattern began to emerge. One that pointed not just to an ancient disaster, but to a very specific moment in history. The coral shapes fossilizing the wheels were not vague or ambiguous. They displayed distinct spoke patterns, precise ratios, and construction styles that experts could easily compare to known Egyptian chariot designs. And that comparison produced a result that stunned even the most cautious analysts. The wheels discovered beneath the Red Sea featured 4, 6, and 8 spokes. These were not random variations. They corresponded exactly to the chariot classifications used under Egypt's New Kingdom, and even more specifically, to the 18th dynasty. This was the era associated with some of Egypt's most powerful pharaohs, including the rulers whose reigns aligned with the traditional timeline of the Exodus. No other era used this combination of spoke patterns simultaneously. The mixture of designs indicated that not just common soldiers, but elite divisions and high-ranking officers were part of the force preserved under the coral. Some historians believe that the 8-spoked wheels were reserved only for the most prestigious chariots, possibly those belonging to nobles or commanders. The distribution of debris also revealed something critical. The wheels and skeletal remains did not form a circular scatter like the aftermath of a shipwreck. They formed a narrow, linear corridor that followed the exact contour of the underwater land bridge. The trail suggested movement from one shore toward the other, as if an entire force was advancing or pursuing something. There were no remnants of wooden hulls, anchors, or metallic cargo typical of maritime disasters. Instead, everything present matched the equipment of a land-based military unit forced into the sea. Even more compelling was the absence of mixed chronological layers. In other ship graveyards, coral growth encases debris from multiple centuries, producing a chaotic blend of artifacts. Here, the coral structures all trace back to a single catastrophic event. The bones, both human and animal, showed uniform mineralization, further supporting the idea that they were deposited at the same time, not over generations. Geography added another layer of confirmation. Nuweiba Beach, the suspected crossing point, fit the ancient description with astonishing precision. The beach is enormous, capable of holding tens of thousands of people, yet surrounded by steep mountains that create a natural trap. If a massive group fled through this region, they would have had only one direction left to escape, and that direction aligned perfectly with the undersea land bridge that the sonar revealed. No other location in the region matched these conditions. The silence of ancient Egyptian records also played a role. While Egypt was meticulous in documenting victories, they rarely recorded defeats, especially catastrophic ones. A military disaster involving the loss of hundreds of elite chariots and high-ranking officers would likely have been erased from official inscriptions, just as other embarrassing events in Egyptian history were quietly omitted. Taken together, the wheel designs, the linear trail, the fossilization patterns, the geography, and the silence of Egyptian archives point to one conclusion. Whatever happened here occurred during the precise window in which the biblical Exodus is traditionally placed. And it happened suddenly, violently, and on a scale that left its mark at the bottom of the sea for more than 3,000 years. When the divers presented their findings, wheels fossilized in coral, bones scattered across a submerged ridge, and a trail matching the shape of an underwater corridor, one question overshadowed everything else. How could an entire army, complete with elite charioteers and animals, end up frozen beneath the Red Sea in a single moment? The facts were undeniable, but the mechanism remained a mystery. And so three major theories emerged, each attempting to explain the impossible. The first theory is rooted in natural forces, the mega tsunami from the volcanic eruption of Pharaoh, also known as Santorini. Around 1600 BCE, this eruption was one of the most violent in recorded geologic history. It devastated coastal regions across the Mediterranean, reshaped islands, and produced waves so powerful that modern simulations show they could have reached the shores of Egypt. A mega tsunami has a signature phenomenon known as drawback, where the sea suddenly recedes for miles, exposing land that is normally submerged. To ancient eyes, this could easily appear as if the sea had been miraculously split open. Those fleeing along the ridge could have interpreted the sudden retreat of water as a divine act, granting them a path across what is normally a deep gulf. But the drawback is only half the story. When the sea returns, it does so with devastating force. If the Egyptian army pursued across the exposed land bridge, the returning wall of water would have collapsed on them with no escape. The catastrophic nature of the debris field chariots crushed, wheels separated from frames, bones scattered in violent patterns aligns closely with what a mega tsunami would produce. This theory provides a scientific mechanism while remaining consistent with the scale of destruction observed on the seabed. The second theory is far more controversial and ties directly into ancient religious traditions. The idea that the Ark of the Covenant was more than a ceremonial object. Some researchers propose that the Ark functioned as a form of high-energy device capable of generating electric discharges or localized atmospheric effects. Ancient descriptions of the Ark mention radiance, power, and danger to those who mishandled it, details that resemble encounters with high-voltage or high-frequency energy. If the Israelites possessed such an object while being pursued, it may have produced a force strong enough to part waters through mechanisms we do not fully understand. The collapse of this force, whether intentional or accidental, could have caused the sea to return suddenly, overwhelming any army still on the ridge. The third theory looks to lost acoustic technology. Certain ancient civilizations, including Egypt itself, were believed to have possessed knowledge of resonant frequencies capable of lifting heavy stones or manipulating materials using sound. If Moses used a staff or instrument designed to amplify specific frequencies, the resulting vibrations might have influenced water masses in ways modern science is only beginning to explore. The parting of water through acoustic levitation remains speculative, but researchers studying water dynamics under powerful sound waves have observed patterns that mimic temporary displacement. Though each theory differs in mechanism, they share a crucial element. Something sudden, powerful, and extraordinary occurred on that submerged ridge. Whether through natural disaster, ancient technology, or a force beyond human understanding, the evidence left behind points to a single moment of overwhelming destruction, one that caught an entire military force in its grip and preserved the aftermath beneath the sea for over 3 millennia. From the moment the 2024 expedition released its preliminary findings, one response echoed louder than any other. Silence. Not curiosity, not excitement. Silence. A heavy, calculated, uncomfortable quiet from institutions that normally rush to comment on every new archaeological headline. And the question is obvious. Why would the greatest potential discovery in biblical archaeology, the possible remains of Pharaoh's army, be met with hesitation rather than enthusiasm? For more than a century, mainstream Egyptology has insisted that the Exodus, at least on the scale described in ancient texts, never happened. This conclusion didn't arise from malice, but from academic logic. There were no campsites, no records of mass migration, no Egyptian documentation of losing an elite force in a catastrophic disaster. In classrooms from Cairo to Cambridge, this has been taught as settled fact. Entire careers have been built upon the assumption that the story is symbolic, not historical. But the seabed evidence threatens to flip that narrative upside down. Hundreds of coral-encrusted wheels that match exactly the New Kingdom period, bones mineralized in patterns consistent with a single event, and a submerged land bridge that lines up perfectly with the ancient account. If all of this is accepted as authentic, then much of the established timeline of Egyptian history will require revision. Academic reputations, decades of published research, and countless textbooks would instantly become outdated. It is not a small correction, it is an earthquake. And academia is not built to handle earthquakes. There is also a political dimension that scholars cannot easily ignore. If a discovery appears to validate a major miracle, described in the scriptures of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam simultaneously, it has the potential to ignite religious and ideological debates worldwide. Institutions that value neutrality fear becoming the center of a global storm. Acknowledging the discovery risks destabilizing long-held secular frameworks and giving rise to tensions in regions already sensitive to religious claims. Beyond that lies the problem of precedent. If one miraculous event turns out to have physical evidence behind it, then what about the others? For some scholars, the implications are simply too vast. It is safer to reject, minimize, or ignore than to accept something that could force a rewriting of ancient history. This is why silence surrounds the discovery, not because it lacks significance, but because its significance is overwhelming. And the deeper the diver's footage goes, the more fragile that silence becomes. The next sections reveal details that scholars have avoided for years, details that may finally break the barrier between myth and history. If you want to see how far this story goes and what the next layers of evidence reveal, make sure to keep watching. The unanswered questions only get louder from here. As the 2024 expedition compared its findings with archival records left behind by earlier explorers, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. One that suggested the past 40 years may have seen more activity on the seabed than anyone realized. The modern team expected mismatches in detail due to natural erosion, shifting sediment, and coral overgrowth. But what they discovered went far beyond the slow work of nature. In the late 1970 seconds and 1980 seconds, Ron Wyatt documented several areas he claimed were dense with artifacts, clusters of wheels, broken chariot frames, and skeletal remains lying in tangled fields across the submerged land bridge. Many of these spots appeared in his early photographs as crowded, chaotic, and unmistakably artificial in structure. But when the 2024 team navigated to these exact coordinates, the seabed told a different story. The regions Wyatt described were strangely empty. The team's ROVs detected long, shallow furrows carved into the seabed floor drag marks. They were inconsistent with natural underwater currents or the movement of marine life. Instead, the marks suggested that large, heavy objects had been pulled away from their original positions. The width and depth of the grooves indicated something substantial had been hooked, lifted, and relocated. Even more unsettling was the disappearance of specific objects Wyatt had described in detail. The most notable example was the golden-colored chariot wheel. He claimed he once surfaced with evidence of its existence before it vanished from official channels. The 2024 expedition searched that location thoroughly, scanning the surrounding region beyond the mapped coordinates. No trace of it remained, only coral formations, suggesting that something had once been embedded there. Marine geologists on the team noted that natural processes generally bury objects rather than remove them. Sediment deposition in the Gulf of Aqaba tends to accumulate over centuries, not clear large spaces. Coral doesn't detach from solid surfaces unless cut or broken. For so many items to be missing, something more deliberate appeared to be at work. There is also the question of timing. Over the decades, several unauthorized dives and unreported expeditions have been rumored in the region. These were not scientific missions, but discrete operations conducted with unknown goals. With the area lying outside mainstream archaeological priorities, there was little oversight and virtually no monitoring. The vanishing evidence raises a possibility few want to confront. If this underwater site truly contains remnants of a significant ancient event, then removing, hiding, or relocating items would be a way to control the narrative before it reaches global attention. Whether done for preservation, secrecy, or something else entirely, the result is the same. The seabed no longer matches the record left by those who saw it decades earlier. What remains is only a fragment of what may once have been the most complete ancient battlefield preserved beneath the sea. As the discoveries pile up, the wheels fossilized in coral, the bones tangled in collapsed chariots, the submerged bridge stretching across an impossible sea. Many researchers, theologians, and ordinary people are beginning to ask a deeper question. If this event truly happened, and if its physical evidence has re-emerged in our generation, then why now? Why would a story buried beneath the Red Sea for more than 3,000 years suddenly return to global attention? Throughout history, certain discoveries appear at moments when the world is already unsteady. Today's world is facing an unusual combination of political unrest, extreme weather, rising geological activity, and unexplained sky phenomena that resemble descriptions written thousands of years ago. Ancient texts spoke of a time when the sea and the waves would roar, when nations would be shaken, and when old truths long forgotten would resurface. The parallels are difficult to ignore. The underwater battlefield may be more than a historical curiosity. For many, it represents a warning and a reminder of a moment when arrogance, oppression, and the pursuit of absolute power led to sudden destruction. The collapse of the Egyptian army was not only a military disaster, it symbolized the downfall of a civilization that believed itself untouchable. The echoes of that collapse may resonate today, in a world where nations again believe they can shape destiny without consequence. There is also the matter of timing. For centuries, the location of the crossing remained uncertain, the evidence elusive. But only now, with technology capable of mapping deep underwater landscapes, does the full picture emerge. It raises the possibility that this knowledge was meant for a specific generation, a generation living at a time of global upheaval and accelerating change. Whether viewed spiritually or symbolically, the rediscovery forces a single, unsettling reflection. If one ancient event thought impossible has now been proven physically plausible, what other prophecies once dismissed as myth might also be closer than we realize? Some scholars speak cautiously, others boldly, but the conversation is growing. The return of this evidence may not signal the end of the world, but it may signal the beginning of a reckoning, an invitation for humanity to reconsider the path it is on. If these discoveries challenge you, inspire you, or make you wonder what might be coming next, remember to like the video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss what's unfolding. Your support helps bring these investigations to light. Thank you for watching, and stay ready because the story is far from over. 2 million people would be staggering. The Red Sea, also referred to as the Sea of Reeds, spans approximately 1,400 miles in length and varies in depth. Yet the Bible describes it parting miraculously to allow the passage of an entire nation. This event is not only a remarkable story, but also a significant element in understanding ancient views of divine intervention and miraculous events. Archaeological and historical research has explored the plausibility of such events, considering theories involving natural phenomena like tidal waves or strong winds to support the biblical narrative. Despite these investigations, the story remains a powerful symbol of faith and divine power, passed down through thousands of years and continuing to inspire awe and debate. It's fascinating but true. Many people find this story entirely believable. According to the Bible, this extraordinary event was orchestrated by God to demonstrate his immense power to all nations, particularly through the people of Israel. This divine display is seen as a clear indication of God's might and purpose, explaining why it is embraced by so many, everyone, that is, except scientists. However, scientists take a different approach, grounding their beliefs in empirical evidence and logical reasoning. For any event to be recognized as truth within the scientific community, it must be backed by solid facts and rigorous data. Historical events, for example, are examined through archaeological findings, documented records, and physical evidence. In contrast, religious or divine explanations, though powerful and significant in cultural contexts, do not always align with scientific methodologies. One notable example of this tension is the debate over miracles reported in various religious texts. Scientists seek natural explanations and observable evidence for these occurrences. The parting of the Red Sea, as described in the Bible, is a famous case that some scientists have tried to explain through natural phenomena like volcanic eruptions or strong winds. However, as long as such events remain unexplained by established scientific laws, they continue to be controversial. The quest for understanding persists, with researchers examining ancient texts, conducting experiments, and analyzing data to bridge the gap between historical accounts and scientific explanations. Until solid, verifiable evidence is discovered, stories that defy the laws of science will continue to provoke debate and curiosity. The real story of the Red Sea crossing. The story of the Red Sea crossing indeed generates significant debate, and it's clear why. The idea that an ocean could part on its own is extraordinary and contradicts our current understanding of physics and geology. No scientific law or theory supports the concept of an ocean splitting apart independently. The forces governing Earth's physical processes, such as gravity and ocean currents, would oppose such a scenario. Gravity, a fundamental force, constantly pulls everything towards the Earth's center and doesn't simply turn off or weaken in one spot. Reflecting on the famous biblical account of the Red Sea parting, which is frequently cited in these discussions, if the Red Sea had indeed split to create a path with towering walls of water, the force required would have been immense. Some estimates suggest that the height of these water walls would need to exceed 100 feet to accommodate the mass of people and animals. Maintaining such a structure without it collapsing due to gravity would be a monumental challenge. Moreover, real-life phenomena like tidal waves or tsunamis might cause temporary flooding, but wouldn't create a stable, walkable path through the ocean. Research into similar events indicates that while large waves or seismic activity can cause brief changes in water levels, they do not produce the miraculous conditions described. Some propose that a divine or supernatural force could explain such an event, but this isn't something scientists can verify through empirical evidence. Modern science relies on reproducible experiments and observable data, and divine intervention falls outside this scope. Until concrete evidence is found, the notion that an ocean could part and allow millions of people to walk through on dry ground remains a fascinating but controversial topic. Several archaeologists and scholars suggest that the Pharaoh who ruled during the Exodus might not have been trapped under the waters as described in the biblical account. Instead, they propose that he could have continued to reign for several more years after the Israelites were freed from Egyptian bondage. This hypothesis is based on historical records and inscriptions indicating that the Pharaoh's reign might have extended beyond the Exodus event. For example, some researchers highlight the lack of definitive archaeological evidence for the mass drowning of Pharaoh's army, which has led to debates about the historical accuracy of the biblical story. It is also suggested that the Pharaoh's body might have been retrieved or that he might have remained on land while his army was caught in the waters. To address these differing perspectives, scientists and historians have conducted extensive investigations, including underwater excavations and the analysis of ancient texts. Their objective is to gather more evidence regarding the Exodus and its historical context. However, this task is complicated by the significant differences between today's advanced technology and the ancient world. Discovering the exact path through the ocean that has likely existed for over 4,000 years is a monumental challenge for researchers studying the Gulf of Aqaba. Identifying the precise location of the Red Sea crossing is crucial. Fortunately, ancient texts, including those in the Bible, provide remarkably detailed descriptions of the crossing site. These descriptions have focused the search on specific areas around Egypt, offering valuable guidance. According to these ancient accounts, the crossing must have occurred in a vast body of water with a minimum depth of 2,000 feet. This depth requirement is significant as it eliminates smaller bodies of water, such as lakes and shallow rivers, which are not deep enough. The Gulf of Aqaba, situated between the Sinai Peninsula and Saudi Arabia, fits this criterion perfectly, with depths exceeding 1,800 feet. Early researchers initially concentrated on the Gulf of Suez, another potential crossing site, but this area proved to be incorrect. The Gulf of Suez is considerably shallower, with depths averaging around 900 feet. The discrepancy between the depth required by the scriptures and the actual depth of the Gulf of Suez led to the conclusion that this was not the crossing site. After an exhaustive search, scientists identified the Gulf of Aqaba as a body of water that perfectly matched the biblical description of the crossing site. This remarkable location is renowned for its striking features, including its depth. One of the most astonishing discoveries was the depth of the Gulf of Aqaba, which plunges to around 5,000 feet at its deepest point. For comparison, the Empire State Building is about 1,454 feet tall, including its antenna, so the Gulf's deepest sections are roughly 3 times the height of this iconic skyscraper. The incredible depth of the Gulf of Aqaba implies that the walls of water described in the biblical narrative would have been extraordinarily high, surpassing any modern building. Picture towering walls of water thousands of feet high flanking the Israelites as they made their perilous journey. These immense water walls would have been so overwhelming that the Israelites, feeling small and insignificant, could hardly grasp their grandeur. Adding to the drama, the Gulf of Aqaba is strategically located along ancient trade routes and has always been a crucial area in regional history. It serves as a natural barrier between the Sinai Peninsula and the Arabian Peninsula, heightening the strategic importance of the crossing. The drama of the crossing would have been further amplified by the presence of the Egyptian chariots in close pursuit. Chariots were the advanced military vehicles of the time, posing a formidable threat. The Israelites' experience of being flanked by colossal walls of water while evading an advancing army must have been both awe-inspiring and terrifying. According to the Bible, a powerful wind parted the ocean, creating a path through the sea. This extraordinary event, often referred to as the parting of the Red Sea, not only involved the splitting of the waters, but also subjected the people to intense, continuous gusts of wind for several hours. This wind, described in some accounts as being strong enough to dry the seabed, added an element of chaos to their escape. Imagine being part of a community that had grown used to a certain level of comfort and stability in Egypt, with regular meals and a predictable routine, suddenly led into the unknown by a single leader, Moses, with no clear plan or guarantee of reaching the promised land. This situation must have been incredibly stressful. The people's fear and doubt were palpable, especially when they expressed a preference to remain in Egypt rather than face the harsh realities of the desert. Adding to their sense of hopelessness was the imminent threat from the Egyptian army. The Egyptians were known for their advanced chariot technology, which allowed them to travel faster than most other armies of the time. As the Israelites fled, the Egyptian chariots, capable of speeds up to 25 mph, relentlessly pursued them. Despite walking for 10 days, the Israelites were still within range of being caught by their pursuers, heightening their desperation and fear. In their minds, they likely felt trapped with no escape from the Egyptian army's chariots. Let's examine a thought-provoking query and change the emphasis. Was the biblical crossing actually in the Gulf of Aqaba? And how did scientists arrive at this conclusion? Depth alone isn't enough to pinpoint the exact crossing site, as other areas might have similar depths. The Gulf of Aqaba, situated at the northern tip of the Red Sea, has undergone extensive investigation. Recent studies employ advanced underwater technology, such as sonar mapping and submersibles, to examine the region's depths for clues. Researchers have discovered ancient coral reefs and underwater land formations that align with descriptions from historical texts. Additionally, artifacts like chariot wheels and human remains have been uncovered, providing further context. By integrating these findings with historical accounts, scientists are gradually piecing together evidence that suggests this might be the crossing point. The blend of archaeological evidence and cutting-edge technology not only clarifies the picture, but also transforms this search into a thrilling exploration of the past secrets of the Gulf of Aqaba. Located in the northeastern corner of the Arabian Peninsula, the Gulf of Aqaba is a striking geographical feature, bordered by Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. This body of water holds significant historical and biblical interest due to its connections with ancient events described in the book of Exodus. The Gulf of Aqaba is particularly intriguing because of its role in the biblical narrative of the Red Sea crossing. What is the Law of Moses? The Law of Moses is quoted by Jesus, Paul, and others in the New Testament. What is the Law of Moses, and how do the various laws apply to Christians today? Do Old Testament laws still apply? The Law of Moses is abolished. The Law of Moses is done away. We're Christians. We aren't followers of Moses. These are some of the statements made by Christian commentators about that huge portion of the Old Testament known as the Law of Moses. Others will tell you that Moses was the great lawgiver of Israel and that those laws guide us in righteous living. There is so much to learn from Moses, some will say. So, which is it? What exactly is the Law of Moses? And maybe more importantly, how should 21st century Christians, and all those interested in what the Bible has to say about right living regard the law of Moses? This article seeks to help those searching for biblical principles to answer the question, what Old Testament laws still apply? What is the law of Moses? Let's begin with a definition of the law of Moses. The law of Moses is the body of law that God gave to ancient Israel through Moses as mediator. The law of Moses is found in the Old Testament books of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. You can usually identify these laws because they are often introduced with this kind of wording. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Exodus 25:1. According to Jewish tradition, there are 613 such laws. But to be exact, we need to exclude the 10 Commandments since they were given directly by God to the people. Exodus 21:19. Are the 10 Commandments part of the law of Moses? So here is an important distinction. The 10 Commandments, also called the Decalogue, were given directly by God. They were not mediated by Moses. They are the 10 points of fundamental moral law given directly by God to his people. The 10 Commandments define how to love God and how to love others. Romans 13:9, Matthew 22:37-40. This moral law existed from the beginning. God's 10 Commandments are expounded throughout the Bible in the letter and in their spiritual intent. They provide a framework upon which all of the law of God hangs. But then, so are many of the laws of Moses. Paul and the law of Moses. The law of Moses is repeatedly quoted in the New Testament, including dozens of references in Paul's letters. What's more, the Apostle Paul tells us rather clearly that we are to be instructed and edified by all of the scriptures, including the laws of Moses. All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, 2 Timothy 3:16. When Paul wrote that, the phrase all scripture referred primarily to what we call the Old Testament, much of which came from God through Moses, Jesus, and the law of Moses. Jesus Christ the Savior acknowledged the law of Moses as he was engaged in his titanic battle with Satan, the adversary of God. Jesus Christ the Savior acknowledged the law of Moses as he was engaged in his titanic battle with Satan, the adversary of God. The battle is known as the temptation of Jesus, and it is recorded in Matthew 4:1-11 and in Luke 4:1-13. Now notice something very interesting. The devil attempted to turn Jesus from his mission 3 times. First, Satan tried to entice Jesus to transform some stones into bread, Matthew 4:3, Luke 4:3. Jesus had fasted for 40 days and nights, so this was a powerful temptation. The Savior's reply comes straight from the law of Moses. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. This is quoted from Deuteronomy 8:3, part of the law of Moses. The adversary didn't give up easily. Next, he asked Jesus to prove himself as the Son of God by throwing himself off the pinnacle of the temple, trusting in God to save him, Matthew 4:6, Luke 4:9. Jesus' reply was again a quote from the law of Moses. It is written again, you shall not tempt the Lord your God. Matthew 4:7, quoting directly from Deuteronomy 6:16. The third attempt was Satan's demand that Christ worship him in exchange for control over all the kingdoms of the world then, Matthew 4:9. Again, the resolute reply from Jesus, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve, comes from the words uttered by Moses in Deuteronomy 6:13. Jesus acknowledged and honored the law of Moses, types of laws in the Old Testament. But that still leaves us with a big question. What else does the law of Moses contain? What types of laws are there? Do those laws speak to us in this 21st century? And if so, what do they say? In principle, the law of Moses is a huge body of laws designed to cover every aspect of life for a physical nation. They include civil laws for ancient Israel, as well as ceremonial laws, various animal sacrifices, washings, and priestly ceremonies. They also include laws governing marriage and family, societal concerns such as care for widows and orphans, animal control laws, property rights, tithing laws, laws of the land, Sabbath and the Jubilee, laws against apostasy, and laws concerning the holy days and the festivals. Biblical judgments. Before we take a look at some examples, we need to note something very important. Ancient Israel had a divinely appointed body of judges whose responsibility it was to judge many of the legal matters that arose in the nation. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro the Midianite, wisely advised his son-in-law to appoint judges, Exodus 18:13-26. God guided Moses to appoint able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, verse 21, as administrators for the law. Those judges were given the prerogative of enforcing the law of Moses, with its penalties such as fines and capital punishment. Examples from the book of the law. So now let's turn our attention to some of the laws of Moses and their modern-day applications. Several of these examples are drawn from Exodus 21-24, often called the Book of the Law. These chapters constitute the heart of the covenant God made with Israel at Mount Sinai. Exodus 21:17 instructs the judges of Israel to put to death any who curse father or mother. This law connects directly with the fifth commandment, which commands us to honor our parents, Exodus 20:12. Even though the penalty historically was reserved to be enacted by the national judges of Israel, the principle is a Christian principle. See Ephesians 6:2-3. Honor, respect your father and your mother. Don't you dare abuse them, for if you do so, you commit a very serious crime in God's sight. What does the Bible say about borrowing things? Exodus 22:14-15 exacts a monetary penalty against anyone who borrows something from another member of the community that then becomes damaged or killed. The principle is still important today and is clearly applicable to modern Christian ethics. We can see the application. Be careful with property that belongs to others. Borrowed items should be returned to their owners in good condition. As individuals, we cannot enforce the monetary penalty that applied to the nation of Israel, but we can apply the principle to ourselves and be very careful with property that belongs to others. If it is damaged while we are using it, we should make it right by reimbursing the owner or replacing the item. Widows, orphans, and strangers. Exodus 22:21-24 enjoins care and concern for three categories of people who were part of the Israelite community: foreigners, widows, and orphans. These three groups would have been the most vulnerable in that ancient society. Watch out for them, God says. Care for them. Caring for those who are vulnerable is an essential element of genuine Christianity. The principle is godly and is echoed in the New Testament, where James 1:27 provides a description of pure and undefiled religion. Pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. Caring for those who are vulnerable is an essential element of genuine Christianity. Importance of mercy. Exodus 22:26-27 is an interesting example of an ancient law with a modern application. If you ever take your neighbor's garment as a pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down. For that is his only covering, it is his garment for his skin. What will he sleep in? And it will be that when he cries to me, I will hear, for I am gracious. This law tells us not to be ruthless in our business dealings when we are owed money by someone who genuinely wants to repay but can't. Let's consider a possible modern application. Someone, a colleague or family member, owes us money but is unable, though not unwilling, to repay the debt. Perhaps he owns a pickup truck, which he relies on to do work so he can feed his family. He pleads with you, please, please don't take my truck. I have to have it, or I can't work and provide for my family. The principle: the truck may be owed to you, but don't grab it. He depends on it for his livelihood. Show a little mercy and allow him time to repay. What does the Bible say about respecting leaders? Exodus 22:28 provides another interesting example. You shall not revile God, nor curse a ruler of your people. In today's culture in which respect for God and national and religious leaders has been eroded, this law provides another example of one that shows us the way to walk. It even guided the Apostle Paul, who in Acts 23:5 gave an apology to the high priest of Israel for reviling him and quoted this law. Animal control laws. Some of the laws of Moses will seem archaic to us, perhaps with no obvious modern-day application. For example, Exodus 21:28-36 is an ancient animal control law concerning oxen that may roam and gore or even kill members of the community. There were fines imposed for allowing that to take place, and the infringement could even rise to the level of a capital crime under certain circumstances. Most of us don't own oxen, but we do own motorized vehicles that have the same potential to kill or maim that oxen had back in Moses' time. So the lesson for us is to keep our vehicles, or our industrial machinery if we own a factory, in good working order and to drive with care to avoid endangering life and limb of others. For example, if we know our brakes or tires are worn out, we have the responsibility to replace them because the consequence of our negligence could be catastrophic to ourselves and others. So this ancient law does have modern application after all. Do not muzzle the ox. Speaking of oxen, the Apostle Paul used an ancient Mosaic law to provide the rationale for ministers of the gospel to live off the gospel in New Testament times. The law reads, "You shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain." Deuteronomy 25:4. Paul quoted that very same law in 1 Timothy 5:18 in 1 Corinthians 9:9 to point out the fact that ministers of the gospel have the right to be paid. Is it oxen God is concerned about? Paul asks. It surely is, though Paul was convinced it was even more for our sakes. Verse 10. Laws of Moses have practical applications centuries after they were first given. Learning from the laws of sacrifice. It is true that some of the laws of Moses don't have a direct application for individual Christians today. Since there is no functioning Levitical priesthood among Christians today, the laws of sacrifice, Leviticus chapters 1-7, don't speak to us directly. But even these laws teach us something. The animal sacrifices were to be unblemished, perfect, Leviticus 22:18-24. This teaches us that Jesus Christ was spiritually a lamb without blemish and without spot. 1 Peter 1:19. The laws requiring the Levitical priests to be healthy and pure, Leviticus 21, also teach us that God requires the best from those who worship him. Civil laws in the Bible. Of course, many of the laws of Moses simply can't be fully applied on an individual level today, since they require action at the governmental level. For example, the law of the Jubilee, Leviticus 25:8-17, required a release of all debts in the 50th year and the return of lands to their original owners. Neither churches nor individuals can enact such a law today. But we can see the wisdom of God in this law. Had it been enacted in any nation or in the world, it would have prevented the buildup of economic stresses within communities and among nations. World wars have begun as a result of such economic imbalances. It would also prevent generational poverty within families. God's laws are always wise and designed for the benefit of humankind. Murder versus manslaughter. More than one principle of good jurisprudence from Moses have found their way into our modern civil law codes. The law of Moses provides us with the two great commandments. For example, the distinction between murder and manslaughter, so critical in determining the seriousness of different classifications of homicide, continues on in the laws of the United States and of other nations. Murder is deliberate, intentional. Manslaughter results in loss of life, but it is involuntary or accidental. Exodus 21:12-14 makes the distinction. Two great commandments. Finally, let's take note. The law of Moses provides us with the two great commandments. The first is to love God with all our heart, soul, and mind. This is the greatest of all the commandments, Mark 12:28-30. The second is like it, to love our neighbor as ourselves, verse 31. Jesus quoted them, both from the law of Moses. You can find those two great commandments in Deuteronomy 6:5 and Leviticus 19:18. Moses didn't invent those laws, but God gave them to him to pass along to Israel then and to us today. Remember the law of Moses. The laws of Moses are not to be cast aside in this 21st century. They should all be read according to their intent and purpose for our edification and applied in our lives individually and as communities, as we are able. The last prophet of the Old Testament left us with a practical reminder as he looked forward to our times. Remember the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded him in Horeb Sinai for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments. Malachi 4:4. Jesus and the law. What was the relationship between Jesus and the law? Did he do away with God's 10 commandments? Did he then give a new commandment that replaced those laws? What did Jesus really say about the law? How do his comments about God's law relate to a new commandment? And what does the Sermon on the Mount tell us about Jesus and the law? Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. Early on in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus Christ said, "Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy but to fulfill." Matthew 5:17. He asserted that not even something as small as an accent mark in the written law would be changed until heaven and earth pass away. Verse 18. And that is a long time. In other words, since heaven and earth continue to exist, the law remains unchanged and will continue to be in effect. Jesus continued, "Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Verse 19. Let's look at the first part of this verse, which refers to one of the least of these commandments. This shouldn't be understood to say God views some commandments as less important than others, but men sometimes do. It was common for Jewish teachers to categorize laws based on how important they felt each to be. God's Word translation has the first part of this verse as, "So whoever sets aside any command that seems unimportant." That seems to be the sense we should take from it. If a person decides some element of the law of God is not important, and especially if he or she begins to teach that, God is not pleased with that person. Jesus said such a person shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. This part of the verse can also be confusing, but we need to carefully read it for what it says. Notice Jesus did not say such false teachers would be in the kingdom, but rather that they would be called least in the kingdom, or by those who are in the kingdom. Adam Clarke's commentary says this: "He who, by his mode of acting, speaking, or explaining the words of God, sets the holy precept aside, or explains away its force and meaning, shall be called least, shall have no place in the kingdom of Christ here, nor in the kingdom of glory above." Other passages also make the point that those who disobey God's law will not be in the kingdom of God. See, for instance, Matthew 7:21-23, 1 Corinthians 6:9-11, Galatians 5:19-21, and James 2:10. In Matthew 5:20, Jesus confirmed this understanding. In a society that assumed that the scribes and the Pharisees were the epitome of law-keeping, Jesus made the surprising claim, "Unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." Verse 20. The disciples surely wondered how this could be and what Jesus meant in these teachings about the law. Here is what he said: "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." John 13:34-35. The Apostle John also talked about this new commandment, but he said it was not really new. 1 John 2:7-10. In his second epistle, he summarized it this way: "And now I plead with you, lady, not as though I wrote a new commandment to you, but that which we have had from the beginning, that we love one another." 2 John 1:5. The command to love your neighbor as yourself goes all the way back to the law of Moses, Leviticus 19:18. But Jesus did expand it with his addition, "As I have loved you." Jesus is love. He demonstrated that great love by laying down his life for us. As Jesus said, "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you." John 15:13-14. Jesus' perfect example of love is the new standard, the new commandment, the two great commandments. Confusion begins when some conclude that demonstrating love somehow replaces keeping God's law. These people apparently fail to understand that God's law is a law of love. Jesus explained that love can be expressed in two great commandments: love toward God and love toward your neighbor. Matthew 22:36-39. Later, Jesus explained that love can be expressed in two great commandments: love toward God and love toward your neighbor. Matthew 22:36-39. The way we love God is explained by the first four commandments, Exodus 20:1-11. The way we love our neighbor is explained by the last six commandments, verses 12-17. Thus, Jesus summarized the 10 Commandments under two great summary laws: love God and love your neighbor. Jesus did not teach that the 10 Commandments were done away, but that they are grouped under two great laws: Jesus and the law, fulfilling and magnifying the law. So in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus said that he fulfilled the law, Matthew 5:17, What did he mean? The word translated fulfill means to make full, to fill up, and to fill to the full. Thayer's Greek-English lexicon. In the remainder of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus illuminated the meaning of the law. He revealed its spiritual purpose and intent. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.
Keeping them honest with a matter of fact, not opinion, about the Democratic and Republican candidates for president.
The biblical tradition, he ended on the other side of the valley.
And he dies where?
And she felt sorry for him. She named him Moses.
The thrill that greeted scientists when they discovered the Ark of the Covenant has undoubtedly not worn off. But an even more intriguing historical riddle has recently been resolved thanks to a marine expedition, pinpointing the precise location of Moses' long-hidden tomb. Though thrilling, this finding has shaken the scientific and religious communities, making them reevaluate everything they thought they understood about faith and history in search of a tomb that God specifically concealed. How did this tomb come to be discovered? What's the secret behind it all? In this episode, we will explain in more detail. Smash that thumbs up button for me, leave me a comment below, and share this video with your friends. And let's get started. The life and legacy of Moses. The man Moses. We are all familiar with Moses' story, and if we were to calculate the number of biblical people who shaped the destiny of nations, he would undoubtedly be at the top. Moses' legacy is unsurpassed. He is revered as a prophet unlike any other, recognized for his face-to-face interactions with the Lord and participation in performing miraculous signs in Egypt. In fact, his contributions to the Israelite faith and culture were so great that some have proposed the formation of an ancestral cult to celebrate his powerful spirit. This magnificent man who led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and received the Ten Commandments had a remarkable life. Moses' journey from nearly avoiding a child massacre at birth to becoming the chosen one who freed his people from captivity is nothing short of enthralling. But it's hard to imagine how the final chapter of such a wonderful guy, to whom history should bestow a special honor and who should be revered for decades to come, became so problematic and ultimately veiled in mystery. His death signaled the end of an era, the completion of the Exodus trip. However, unlike many of his contemporaries, the circumstances surrounding his burial are shrouded in mystery and have prompted decades of inquiry and discussion. Even though it was reported that God buried him in a valley in Moab, near Beth Peor, historians have searched tirelessly to locate his tomb to no effect. Until lately, a group of archaeologists determined to solve this riddle followed a new lead and made a startling discovery of this long-hidden location. Please wait till the end to discover this secret. Who buried Moses and where was he buried? Moses was 120 years of age at the time of his death. Testifying to his natural strength, the Bible comments, "His eye had not grown dim and his vital strength had not fled. He was buried by Jehovah in a location never since discovered." D34:5-7. Likely this was to prevent the Israelites from being ensnared into false worship by making a shrine of his grave. Evidently, the devil desired to use Moses' body for some such purpose. For Jude, the Christian disciple and half-brother of Jesus Christ, writes, "When Michael the archangel had a difference with the devil and was disputing about Moses' body, he did not dare to bring a judgment against him in abusive terms, but said, 'May Jehovah rebuke you.'" Jude 9. Before crossing over into Canaan under the leadership of Joshua, Israel observed a 30-day mourning period for Moses. To 34:8. After viewing the land of promise from Mount Nebo, Moses dies and Jehovah buries him in Moab, his tomb being unknown and unhonored to this day. However, Expedition Unknown is launching a full-blown investigation into the death and burial of Moses, the legendary figure from the Bible. Researchers have been led to the Sea of Galilee, where a mysterious underwater structure has been discovered for the first time. This finding challenges our understanding of the history and legend of Moses. The legendary Miriam's Well serves as a backdrop to this discovery, adding to the mystique of the proceedings. Scientists, archaeologists, and researchers are deploying a seismic air gun in the Sea of Galilee to scan an underwater anomaly that could be connected to the biblical legend of Miriam's Well. Could these revelations plunge the Middle East into turmoil? How might these findings impact modern life? The mission is clear. The Expedition Unknown team, led by Josh Gates, will be exploring the sea for more clues that can shed light on the past of Miriam's well. Miriam's well. Legend has it that Miriam's well provided water to the Israelites during their 40 years of desert wandering, a miracle crucial to their survival. To investigate a potential connection to this biblical legend and Moses' sister Miriam, researchers are using a seismic air gun to scan an underwater anomaly in the Sea of Galilee. They believe the structure they found could validate the legend of Miriam's well as historical fact. The Exodus story features Moses and his siblings, Aaron and Miriam. Miriam plays a key role in the narrative, initially appearing as the protective sister who ensures Moses' safety by sending him down the Nile River in a basket. The story progresses with Moses being found and adopted, but Miriam later emerges as a leader, guiding the women of Israel in celebration after their escape across the Red Sea from Pharaoh's oppression. Miriam is closely linked to water throughout her story, from the Nile River to the Red Sea. Her legend concludes with a well that sustained her people, known as Miriam's well. According to Israelite traditions, after escaping Egypt, they were nourished in the desert by manna from heaven, which was actually water from a miraculous well that followed them on their journey. This water, seen as a divine gift, provided not only physical sustenance, but also spiritual encouragement, helping the Israelites remain hopeful and determined. Miriam's well holds significant importance in the legends and traditions of these people. This transformation of something dry into a well demonstrates God's grace and love for his children. The narrative emphasizes God's love for the Israelites and highlights Miriam's bravery and faithfulness. Her story underscores the power of faith and the influence of strong leadership. The Sea of Galilee. Another significant biblical connection is the Sea of Galilee, a freshwater lake in Israel known for its geological and archaeological importance. Recent discoveries here have ignited a flurry of questions and spurred major expeditions. Historians and scholars are fascinated by a story that has emerged, an anomaly detected during a 2003 sonar survey by Israeli scientists. As they mapped the lakebed, they discovered a massive cone-shaped structure made of basalt rocks and boulders, located just half a mile northwest of the Sea of Galilee's shores. Measuring over 230 feet in diameter, rising 39 feet from the lakebed, and weighing an estimated 60,000 tons, this structure clearly required significant effort to construct. The Jerusalem Talmud mentions that you could see a bump in the Sea of Galilee. Is there anything else like this that emerges from the lake? The mysterious origins have sparked imaginations, especially in a place rich with biblical history, making connections to Miriam's well unavoidable. According to Jewish tradition, the water provided by the well during the Israelites' 4 decades in the desert seems to have been hidden after their journey. Researchers believe the anomaly in the Sea of Galilee could be related to Miriam's well or even be its actual resting place. To examine the anomaly more closely, researchers employed seismic air guns, typically used in oil and gas exploration and geological studies. These devices release high-pressure air into the water, creating sound waves that penetrate the seabed. When the sound waves are reflected back to the surface, sensors capture them, allowing scientists to create detailed images of the subsurface structures. The three-dimensional images help determine what lies underwater. In this case, the scientists believe the massive size of the structure suggests it is artificial, implying that people must have transported and stacked the large basalt boulders, as this does not occur naturally. The careful placement of the boulders suggests a specific purpose. The structure's estimated age, around 4,000 years old from the early Bronze Age, further hints at its creators. Utilizing advanced technology to uncover ancient history secrets marks a significant milestone for people worldwide. The pursuit of information and truth is more valuable than ever. However, even with a deeper understanding of the region's history, researchers are still working to interpret their findings. Some speculate the structure could have been a monument, burial mound, or ceremonial site. Josh Gates is keen to discover if it is indeed Moses' tomb. Others believe it could hold religious significance rather than being a grave marker. The connection to Miriam's well raises intriguing questions about whether biblical events can now be verified or expanded upon with technology. Focusing on the anomaly itself, researchers note the structure's massive size and its composition of basalt boulders and stones forming a large cone-shaped pile on the lakebed. the size and arrangement leave no doubt about the considerable effort required to build it. Basalt, a volcanic rock common in the area, indicates that the builders used local materials instead of importing them. While the exact reason for constructing this structure remains unclear, initial age estimates based on sediment layers and comparisons to similar archaeological sites may provide clues about its creators. Their most educated estimate places the structure in the early to mid-Bronze Age, a period marked by the sudden emergence of more complex societies with significant advancements in metalworking and the establishment of trade networks across the Near East. The grandeur of this mysterious structure suggests it was created by a well-organized community, indicating that the society possessed advanced communication and cooperation skills necessary for such a large-scale project. This remarkable feat of engineering and architectural skill carries a historical significance that extends beyond its construction. The structure's placement in the middle of the lake, continuing under the sediment, suggests that the sediment accumulated after the structure was built and later became submerged due to shifts in water levels. This implies a possible connection to the worship of water, an exceptionally valuable resource in a desert climate. The Exodus story, which took place in this region, could be linked to this structure. As Josh Gates remarks, something dry which is then consumed by water could identify it as the Well of Miriam. If the structure predates the Exodus, it could provide valuable insights for religions that emphasize this narrative and offer significant information for historians, enabling them to learn more about the society that existed before the emergence of the Israelites. The influence of these people and their history on the stories and legends remembered today could be substantial. Further research and data that place the structure's creation closer to the traditional timeline of the Exodus could offer incredible insights and evidence into the monumental projects of that time. This would lend credibility to the biblical stories of large-scale constructions and engineering, which have never been confirmed as true. For instance, the construction of altars and standing stones already aligns with the known capabilities of the people of that era. All of this connects back to Moses' tomb, a fascinating intersection of archaeology, religion, and history. For centuries, people have pondered this mythical figure's place in history. Now they were one step closer to determining his existence and resting place. This curiosity is not unusual, as the resting places of significant figures have often been memorialized and marked with great care and ceremony, even in modern times. Discovering Moses' tomb would provide historians and theologians with a wealth of new information. The account of Moses' death in Deuteronomy 34 describes that he died in the land of Moab and was buried in a valley opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows the location of his burial even today. There is no evidence of this burial ever existing. Josh Gates notes that Moses is mentioned frequently in the Quran, and archaeologist Talek counts an astounding 130 mentions, more than any other prophet. According to the Quran, Moses crossed the river and stood in the very spot where Josh Gates is now. The vague and undetailed nature of Moses' burial and death adds to the mystery. Quiet rumors suggest that his burial was orchestrated by God himself due to the scarcity of details. The biblical account of his burial has led many to believe that the site was kept secret to protect it from becoming a site of idolatry and to ensure it remained undisturbed. While Moses is a hero in many faiths, mainly Christianity and Judaism, he is also a highly regarded figure in Islam as one of their prophets and a messenger of God. His story parallels the biblical account, with his mission to lead the Israelites and his role as a receiver of divine revelation remaining consistent. However, in Islamic tradition, the matter of his burial differs from biblical retellings. Some Islamic texts describe his burial site as near the Red Dunes of Roman Jordan, while others hint at a location in Jericho in the West Bank. Another notable site associated with Moses is the tomb of Nabi Musa in the West Bank, revered by Muslims for centuries, which Muslims have revered for centuries as his burial place. The site, with its mosque and mausoleum, has become a significant place of reverence and pilgrimage, highlighting the profound respect and love that followers of the Islamic faith have for him. To this day, there remains a centuries-old tradition in Islam that calls for an annual pilgrimage to Nabi Musa. Moses' presence is deeply woven into the spiritual fabric of the region, reflecting the enduring devotion to him as a prophet. The quest to locate his tomb extends beyond the physical realm. This is why archaeologists and scholars have embarked on numerous explorations and proposed various theories regarding the tomb's location. The mysterious nature of the tomb mirrors the enigmatic and spiritual aspects of faith in a higher power. Josh Gates is eager to determine if Moses is truly interred at the tomb that serves as a site of worship and pilgrimage in Nabi Musa. The expert archaeologist accompanying him explained that this tomb is recognized as such primarily due to Muslim tradition and the long-standing belief that this is Moses' burial site. This designation dates back to the 13th century.